So the first match of the Rugby Championship is done and dusted for the All Blacks, and it certainly was not the result that they were after. Up against Argentina, losing by 8 points in Wellington. They certainly won't be wanting to play there again for a while. But this next game at Eden Park, the All Blacks fortress. And in this video, we're going to be trying our best to predict what Scott Robinson is going to be going with for his All Blacks 23-man side. But it is myself, and it is Rugbyitch. Massive win for Argentina in that game, mate. That's now 2 in a row that they've beaten the All Blacks in Wellington. What did you think of the overall Pumas performance?
Yeah, just unbelievable, really. Just unbelievable. I mean, so much like key standout players that kind of just turned up on the day. I mean, particularly Augustine Caribbean, I'd say. But man, just what a performance by Argentina. And to do it in Wellington, that's another, I guess, one off the checklist now of stadiums they've, I guess, won it now. But it's crazy because the penalty count was kind of against them at times. But man, they just kind of pulled back every single time, scored a try. They kind of went against the grain, and yeah, just they got the job done at the end of the day. So yeah, just fair play to Argentina. They're just amazing, just amazing.
Now the big thing is trying to back it up with another big performance here at Eden Park. But I assume for yourself, just like myself, we've got quite a few changes. And I believe Razor has to do just that, try and work out what went wrong, where they can fine-tune this All Black side, because at this stage, unless something drastic happens and they don't find that cohesion, we could be looking at 2 wins in a row for Argentina. But looking through at your front row, who do you think Scott Robinson will go with for this matchup?
Yeah, it's tough because, with this front row, you would want to make changes because just, going off that result. But you have to also remember there was not really a scrum until, the 60th minute. So this front row really wasn't tested, to say the least, in terms of from that set piece standpoint. So for that reason alone, I've actually kept the same 3 that they went with in the first test, with Ethan DeGroot number 1, Cody Taylor number 2, and Tyrell Lomax number 3. So hopefully they can do the job there.
And like you said, it's very hard to judge what could have happened for the All Blacks front row because, of course, the guys who came off the bench, we did see Argentina having a clear advantage at scrum time. DeGroot, Taylor, and Lomax never really getting a chance to show us their craft. So I've gone with the exact same front row for myself as well, just to see a little bit more of them. I know that Cody Taylor's lineouts in this game were a lot stronger than we saw in the English series. So that's a step in the right direction, at least, for the All Blacks when it comes to the set piece. But now moving on to the locking duo. Now this is a very interesting one because Patrick Tuipulotu last game, I believe, wasn't eligible for selection due to injury. We're not sure of the extent of that injury. So for that reason, we have taken a bit of a risk, and I believe we've both actually put Tuipulotu in at number 4 for this game. Now, Tupavai made 14 tackles throughout that last game up against the Argentines, had some strong moments at line-out time, but I think that Tuipulotu and number 5 Sam Derry combination could be exactly what the All Blacks need. I think Sam Derry was phenomenal in that game up against Argentina, scoring his first try for the All Blacks, his starting debut as well. Looked like he had a lot more experience than he does, so a bright future for that young man. And having Patrick Tuipulotu's experience at 4 could be absolutely massive for the All Blacks. But of course, if he's not available, Tupavai I am putting as the number 4.
Everything you just said there is exactly what I would go with. For the same reasons, I've gone with Patrick Tuipulotu at the number 4 spot, as well as Sam Derry, the number 5. I just think Derry was just excellent on the day. I think he didn't do anything wrong that I can recall. Like, his lineouts were good from that position. Called it very well. The try, of course, it's just the cherry on top, and man, just a heck of a performance by him. Just the result that didn't go his way, really. But yeah, I'd like to see Tuipulotu because he's just someone that he also just makes Derry better. But we've seen it within the Blues as well. So I would love to see the combination for the All Blacks. But yeah, of course, if it doesn't happen, then I'll put Tupavai as the 5, and then I'll put Sam Derry as the 4.
In front of Eden Park as well, home ground advantage for those 2 men. I think that Derry at the moment for me is a pretty much confirmed number 5, honestly, to play South Africa. The way that he's played in his first 2 performances, I know that's a massive call, but I do not think that even if Scott Barrett is available, I don't know whether or not you can go with that Barrett-Tuipulotu combo with... I just don't think Barrett's in form. I think the only Barrett that is in form at the moment is actually Bowden, which is normally the opposite. Normally they're saying, when is that man going to find his form? But yeah, it's a weird scenario at
It's
the
all
moment
bad
for the
now.
Barrett brothers.
More think about it. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm playing Sam Derry up against South Africa. I feel like he actually is a lot more deceptively strong than some people give him credit for.
Yeah.
Like, he's a big boy. When you got your mum as a dietitian, you're going to know what you should and shouldn't be eating. So, yeah, I would have him in that lock and joy. But now loose forward trio. This is where we could have changes, or maybe we've gone identical. For yourself, Tim, have you made any switches for the ABs here?
I have. I've made one switch to this side. I was actually considering to make two here, but I've only gone with one, and that switch does come in the 6 spot. I've gone with taking out Ethan Blackadder, and I've gone with semi-final final at the number 6 spot. I just think I want to see him into this game. I think he's just the perfect player, really, to play against the Argentinians, because you want size, I think, and he's just someone from a tackling standpoint can kind of, I guess, counteract what the Argentinians do in terms of that kind of loose forward trio. So he's someone I want to see involved. And then, for that 7 jersey, I've kept Dr. Papali, but there was consideration maybe to kind of take him out. But it's just one of those where I think he didn't really do anything wrong. It's kind of similar towards the low kind of call with South Africa. There's not much I can kind of say against him. So for that reason, I've kind of stuck with him at the number 7. And then, of course, you got to go with Odysseus at the number 8. Like, he was actually very good in the game. He had moments where, we can kind of go back to that pass, actually, that people kind of forget. He made that first forgetful pass that kind of led towards Karevi kind of scoring that try later on. But yeah, look, overall, he was still good in the game, won some kind of key turnovers. So yeah, he's definitely the number 8.
Okay, so for myself, number 6, this is where I've actually gone with Luke Jacobson. Now, I'm not too sure whether or not he is available due to his injury, and if he's not, I do agree with you that Samapeni Finau might be a great option at 6, but Finau for me this year just hasn't quite ramped it up to the level that you would think. Like, the man's got all of the attributes in terms of the build of him to be an absolute menace when it comes to the breakdowns, the lineouts, and just everywhere out there on the field. But throughout those games up against England, he didn't really show it. It just seemed to be that he was almost non-existent at moments throughout that game, which I think the All Blacks' success in this game comes if they've got a very evident loose forward trio, and all three of them are doing extremely well. Now, Ethan Blackadder, he was pretty strong up against Argentina, making 20 tackles throughout that game, the only All Black to have inside of the top 4. He also had a few mistakes, almost had a yellow card in the later stages of the contest. But I've decided to move him to number 7, and I've got him here at open side flanker. Razor, to me, would have been looking at that performance from Blackadder and gone, he's working harder than everyone else, it seems. So I'm going to switch him to 7 and then maybe bring someone else to bring some physicality at number 6. So for me personally, I probably would either leave Blackadder at 6 or take him out and have him off the bench. But I do think that Scott Robertson will find a spot for him somewhere in the starting lineup. So that's why I've put him.
I like that call, actually. Now that you've said that, I kind of wish I did that. But it's one of those where...
It's very hard to try and get in the mind of Scott Robertson, though. I will say that. Like, Ian Foster, I feel like by the end of his coaching tenure, we were starting to read him pretty obvious. First of all, first 3 names you wrote, Barrett, then you were sorted for those. And then after that, you had 12 players that you had to try and work out, normally the ones with more experience. But in this case, where does the loyalty lie for Scott Robinson? Is there going to be some Crusaders bias? Is there going to be some of the older players getting the nod first rather than the informed players from Super Rugby? A lot of questions that will be answered by the end.
It's the start of a new cycle as well. We have to remember this. Like, this is the year where you can make those changes. It's like later on, that's where you kind of have to stick with the same team to kind of build that chemistry up. So for now, Scott Robinson does have the opportunity to make these changes. So we'll have to wait and see.
And number 8 is not where I've made one of those changes, because I've gone with Ardie Savia. Once again, like you mentioned, he had a very strong game, but there were a few shaky moments for Savia throughout this game. And I think that was mainly, I don't want to shift the blame or anything, but I do think it was because the All Blacks were under so much pressure in the breakdown, because the forwards just weren't there at times, which did mean, that pass from Savia, you could argue he was just rushed because there was no one protecting that ball for the ABs. They had to try and shift it as quickly as they could. Number 9 wasn't quite functioning, I don't think, for the ABs either, which transitions us perfectly to our 9-10 combination. For me, I've gone number 9, Cortez Ratama, and number 10, Damian McKenzie. Now, Razor has mentioned he is sticking with McKenzie at 10, no matter what the naysayers say. At the moment, he is keeping that man as his fly half. He was under immense pressure throughout this game, but I think that some of that pressure was coming because the ball just wasn't going towards him quick enough. TJ Perenara, don't get me wrong, his experience is something you can't buy, but also at the same time, when you've got an informed Cortez Ratama who already partners with McKenzie throughout Super Rugby Pacific, it just seems like the obvious choice. Definitely up against a side like Argentina, they've already got Gonzalo Bertrano, so they've got their young combination of him and Carreras, so you might as well stick your young combination out there as well. So Cortez Ratama, my 9, Damian McKenzie as my number 10.
Yeah, no, I agree. Couldn't agree more on that. I think like that combination just has to kind of come into a form, I think, in this game, and that's the reason why I've gone also with Cortez Ratama and Damian McKenzie. Like, you can't get rid of McKenzie. Like, it's just, you got to kind of just start the argument right now. Like, just McKenzie is your number 10. He is going to be your number 10, I believe, for the next World Cup. So that's, you got to give him the games and just that position. So he's definitely number 10. And yeah, the number 9, I think you just got to make that switch, really. I think like TJ, it's just, he didn't have that kind of game which you kind of wanted from him. And I just think, like you said, the passing is something which I think Ratama can kind of help better, I guess, in terms of the second test against Argentina.
And it's quite interesting that the younger option at the moment for the All Blacks at 9 does seem like the more feasible one because, of course, Cam Roigard currently injured. Soon he will be back. And then you could have 3 9s in your side, all under the age of 25, Noah Hotham, Cortez Ratama, and then also Cam Roigard. But is that what they're going to look at? Or are we going to see some of Christie? Are we going to see Perenara? Who else? Fakatava. Is he ever going to get himself a chance in the ABs? Tell you what, the All Blacks have. So we'll wait and see whether or not everyone else does as well. But now the centre pairing, Tim, for yourself. Geordie Barrett, you mentioned about it earlier on. He's not on the best form. Rieko Ioane at 13, not on the best form. Anton Leonard-Brown, he was pretty strong throughout that first game, although 4 missed tackles in that contest up against Argentina. Who is your midfield combo for this game?
Yeah, look, this is, it's one of those where, like I said before, it's the first time ever I've had doubt over Geordie Barrett. Because normally we always kind of think about the 13 as the one where you have to switch to kind of help Geordie Barrett. But in that case, that game was the one where I was like, wow, Geordie just did not have the game that we kind of expect from him. So it's the first time I've kind of had to ponder over a decision, like in terms of, do I think Robinson will take him out? I don't think he'll do it. I think if I had to do it, if I was making the decision, I actually would do it just for the game and just see how it works out. But it's maybe too much of a risk that because you lost that first game, like you have to kind of make up for it now. So I think that's what Robinson will also have in mind. So I think you just got to keep with Geordie Barrett, and just he's not going to have like I'd be very surprised if he has like another game like that. So that's another reason why. So Geordie Barrett's number 12, but for 13, I've actually brought back Reiko into that starting side. That's the toughest call though, because and the reason why I'm doing that is just more to kind of shore things up in terms of that midfield, because I just feel Geordie Barrett will be a better player with Reiko. That's actually the reasoning behind it, by the way. It's not actually that Anton Brown was bad. He was actually he's probably one of the best players actually for the All Blacks in that first test. It's just because you want Geordie Barrett to be better, I feel Reiko is the better partner. I hate to say it, that's kind of the reason behind that decision. So that's my 12-13 combination.
Right, so 12 and 13 for yourself. You've gone with Barrett and Ioane. For myself, I've got 2 changes. Number 12, I've gone with Anton Leonard-Brown. Number 13, Billy Proctor.
I love it. This is what I wanted to do. I just don't think Robertson will do it.
But number 12, I can easily see Anton Leonard-Brown going to that inside centre role. He's done it throughout the Chiefs season. He's done it for the All Blacks before. He can slot into either jersey and play it very well. Defensively, yes, there were a couple errors, but a lot of those times he was on a hiding to nothing anyway when Argentina were already making that line break. And the other side of things is he scored himself a try, which is more than Rieko has done this year. Hasn't scored himself a single try in Super Rugby Pacific or for the All Blacks so far. I feel like you want to have that clinical nature on attack, and something about that All Blacks backline wasn't functioning one bit. So that's why I want to go back to similar to what it was up against the Fijians when we did see that backline looking sensational, and You could say that Argentina will play a very different style to the Fijians in this game.
That's for sure. Yeah.
But I still feel like if you can get your passing right, that can make a massive difference. The All Blacks look like the under-9s, learning how to pass the ball up against Argentina. And the problem was, anytime they got it wrong, Argentina pounced and they scored.
Yeah.
They were absolutely brilliant when it came to that counter-attack and making meters from the All Blacks' mistakes. But yeah, I've gone Anton Lienert-Brown, number 12. Billy Proctor, there was a bit of a concern about maybe a knee injury for that man, but I'm hoping he's okay. If he's not, then I do still think that Anton Lienert-Brown at 12 would be a great option, and maybe you do put Rico as that 13, but if Proctor's match fit, I'm putting him in every day of the week. It's just whether or not Razor will do that, but I do hope that he does for this game, because I honestly feel it's the best chance for the All Blacks to get the big win. But now we move on to the back three. Number 11, I have gone with Caleb Clark. I've taken Mark Talia out of the side. No matter what game it is, it seems like Mark Talia will still be the top man for defenders beaten. In this game, I feel like his defence was a little bit stronger than we saw up against the English, but at the same time, there were still holes in that defence, unfortunately. But he did at least catch the kickoffs, which was a bonus for the All Blacks. But he's a strange player for me, Tim. Like, he can be so good yet so bad at the same time, you know? And I want to see a little bit of consistency is the only thing I ask for. And I assume that Scott Robinson would be asking for the same thing. Someone who you can rely on to give you at least a 7 out of 10. And then every once in a while, they give you that 10 out of 10 that blows everyone else completely out of the water. At the moment with Talia, you get a 10 on attack and you get a 2 in defence. So you got to decide whether or not getting around that 6 on average is worth it for the overall outcome of the game. But Caleb Clark up against Fiji, I thought he looked good. I'll give him another chance here. I think he will chase the high ball a lot harder than we saw from Mark Talia, which will then put more pressure on the Pumas. And that might be exactly what the All Blacks need, just a little bit of contestability in the midfield and the middle of the park to then get that ball back in their favour, get that quick counter-attack going as well. But number 14, this is where I've gone with Will Jordan. Now, I don't know whether or not they see him currently as their fullback or whether they see him as a winger. I think with Barrett's form, you keep him out of that fullback jersey, Will Jordan, as long as possible and give him a spot somewhere else in that back line. And Sever Reece just didn't quite perform in that first game up against Argentina, having a few crucial errors. So I go with Will Jordan, get him in the starting lineup. He looked good off the bench, so I'd like to see him get another crack. And this matchup, and then number 15, that is where I have kept Beauden Barrett. I do want to see him do more of what they did up against the English, though, in that second match where he was playing that first and second receiver. Him, McKenzie, and Ratama, I think, are an extremely dangerous combo that for some reason they don't want to pull the trigger on. But if they do, that's where I think the All Blacks will find more success. And then not just that, imagine that with Billy Proctor at number 13, Will Jordan out on the wing. That is a formidable backline that we just have to only guess how they'll play rather than seeing it in reality. But I think Razor will at least hopefully do it here. I'm possibly wishful thinking in this scenario, but at the end of the day, what else can you do in this scenario for the ABs?
I think for me, I have a few changes to you in this from those three. And for one, I have gone with Caleb Clark at the number 11 jersey. I just think you got to. I mean, if he's available, you select him because, you know, off that Super Rugby kind of campaign, he was probably the best player, I'd say. But, you know, we're not going to mention his name, but he's probably the second best player in terms of Super Rugby, besides the one that we're not going to mention his name. We can't.
I think you've mentioned his name on every single lineup.
We're not mentioning his name. We're not mentioning his name. It's like Voldemort.
He scored for counties. He's scored for counties in the NPC.
He's number 11, Caleb Clark. He's just got to, you know, he's just great in the high ball as well, and he's just a try scoring machine, so he's there. Number 14, this is where I've gone with Mark Talia. I think Mark Talia deserves the beat because I'm actually completely opposite to you, and actually how you talk about Mark Talia and Sever Reece. Like Sever Reece, you actually expect him to be better defensively than Mark Talia, but he just wasn't that at all. Like this is the reason why I select Sever Reece. He can score tries, but he's better defensively. But he's not. If he's not giving you that, then that's where there's doubt in terms of his selection. I think with Mark Talia, he's been scoring tries. He's done his job. That's exactly what he's known for. And again, like you said, yes, he solidified, I guess, his defensive, I guess, abilities in that first game. But again, I wouldn't go too much into that because it's more not a lot of the kind of ball went to him in that side. Whereas for Sever Reece, the ball went off towards him on the right hand side, and he didn't handle it to the best of his ability, I think. So that's why I want to put Martelea, keep him in the 14, and then this is where I put Will Jordan at the 15 spot. I think this is where they got to do it. That's the play. That's the big play that I think Robinson will build his team around. I think a lot of people have to remember that when I wanted Scott Robinson to come in, this was the key decision that had to happen for me to kind of, and what I believe, if the All Blacks want to win a World Cup, Will Jordan will be your fullback. That's the way I see it, because he can be the best player in the world in fullback. And if you put him there, start him now, then it's just going to get better and better. So I think he's number 15, and I'm excited. I'm actually excited just thinking about it because he's just so good for what he's done for the Crusaders, and he's hurt. He's hurt by Blues several times. So hopefully he can do the same thing to Argentina. And I just think the combination of Caleb Clark, Martelea, Will Jordan, it's just exciting. And again, you have that kind of experience in the center combination for what I've said in Barrett and Reiko. It's an exciting back line. But like you said, I wouldn't mind the switch actually for what you've mentioned with Anton Brown and Billy Proctor, because I just don't know if they'll do that many switches. That's kind of why
that's a lot of changes, isn't it?
That's why I went with a bit more experience, I guess, in that center combination. But it's a big call as well because I haven't included Bowden. But again, there's a reason for that. I just think Will Jordan's just too good to leave out, and I think in that 15 jersey, he's going to be prime time.
And that's the thing as well with the All Blacks in this contest. Will Jordan, you want to give him as many minutes as possible.
Yeah.
With the form that we've got in this All Black side, that means someone else is more than likely going to miss out on some of their minutes. We haven't even mentioned someone like a Ruben Love who got called into the squad for this Rugby Championship. And at the moment, I don't even know how they're going to play him in any of the contests, at least not in the near future anyway, even though he was phenomenal throughout Super Rugby Pacific. I hadn't even thought about Mark Talia out on that right wing, to be honest. But that's the crazy thing. He played right wing all throughout Super Rugby Pacific. It is the All Blacks who decided to play him on the left rather than the right to accommodate Sever Reece, who had played a majority of the Super Rugby Pacific season on the opposite wing, on the left, number 11. So
it's good logic. It's good logic.
It keeps you guessing, that is for sure. This is where we end up seeing, Will Jordan play 11 or something like that, something that we haven't seen yet.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Caleb Clark into the centres. I've heard that rumoured quite a bit. I don't think it's happening. Not yet anyway. Although, to be fair, with Barrett out of form, maybe that's your perfect chance. Stick Caleb Clark at inside centre.
I'm trying to think as well, is there no, it could have been done. I was trying to maybe think, would Bowden have the size to actually do something where he goes in like a Andre Pollard, where you can move your 10 into a 12, but I just don't think that's possible. And I would never want to see that for the All Blacks. You can have that for England, you can have that for SA, because it works for the style of play they do it. But for New Zealand, just have the 110. It works well with that 15.
Who also plays 10, just to clarify.
You also plays 10. That's the way you're going to do it. That's always the way it's been. You have Mwanga and Barrett. They've always gone over that dispute, I guess. Now it's just McKenzie. Keep it simple. And then, the 15, in my case, put Will Jordan. Just put Will Jordan, man.
Well, that means that Bowden Barrett, I would assume, is somewhere in your side. We are now on to the benches. 5-3 split for yourself in the scenario.
Indeed.
Alrighty, so first of all, the front row replacements. Who have you gone with in this case?
Yeah, so off the bench, I've gone with Asafo Moore. I just think it's the easy selection there. You can consider George Bell, but I just think with the pressure that's on the All Blacks now, you just got to go with the more experienced hooker in that case. So I think Asafo Moore is the guy. Off that, I've then gone with Tamati Williams as the 17, and then Fletcher Newell as the 18. I was considering Opportunity Fassi, but I don't think he's as good as Fletcher Newell when it comes to scrummaging, and I want to see Tamati Williams involved, and I think he's going to be a better option at the number 1. So you can include Fletcher Newell. So yeah. Okay,
so for myself, I've got number 16 Asafo Moore. Number 17, just like yourself, I've got Tamati Williams.
Okay.
He has to be in there somewhere, I believe, for the All Black scrum, because later on in that game, like we mentioned earlier on, the All Black scrum was dominated in a way that, honestly, I don't think we've seen in a very long time. I know some people would say that there's the argument that at times South Africa have had a strong scrum up against New Zealand, but in terms of like recently, I haven't seen the All Blacks go back so many meters in a
I agree.
scrum
I agree.
in a very long time. And that makes you wonder, is that because of the lack of physicality that they were bringing? And when you put in a guy as a replacement front row who's about 150 kgs and about 6'5", you like to think that if he doesn't have physicality, no one would out there on the field. For the All Blacks, number 18, this is where I've gone with Basilio Tossi. Now, Fletcher Null, known for his scrummaging, comes off the bench in that last game and finds himself going backwards throughout the later stages. So I've gone with a little bit more bulk. Basilio Tossi, he's got the running game as well. We saw that in the game up against the Fijians. The reason Tim is smiling is we had a debate about now that Xavier Numia is close to coming back, is Basilio Tossi the man who does have to make way for him? But I think if he plays well in this game off the bench, if they are willing to give him the shot, I think he'll solidify himself as one of the All Blacks props.
In that case, then, who would you take out?
There's 6 options. If anyone ends up with the injury, perfect chance for Xavier Numia to make his way back in.
You gotta give us a good answer. Come on, you could say offer. Like we all know you're freaking.
I don't know if it's offer, to be honest. Like if Fletcher Null is known for scrummaging and he can't scrummage like to the level that they need,
it should be,
that's possibly where you end up going. And then Tamaiti Williams or offer can go back to that tight head prop. More than likely Williams, I would say in that case. But yeah, it will be intriguing to see whether or not the All Blacks can right some of those wrongs that they had in the first match up against the Argentines. But I think physicality is the forefront and exactly what they need to change this game. Because you look through at this Argentine side, even just their loose forward trio, Pablo Matera, Marcos Crema, Juan Matan Gonzalez, all 3 of them were joining the breakdown as much as they could. They were disrupting the All Blacks, just trying to get some sort of momentum shift, and a lot of the times it was working. And that is why these 2 other replacement forwards for myself need to stop that momentum. I have gone with Tupavai, number 19. So that would mean no Josh Lord, but if Tui Piloto is unavailable, I would have Josh Lord as that 19. And then number 20, this is where I have got Dalton Papali'i. So Jacobson and Blackadder could both play 6. Papali'i could even play 6 if he needed to. So I've got that little bit of versatility there. Wallace Satiti off the bench. It wasn't his best performance, but at the same time, like he was a little bit unlucky, I would say, in terms of he had 1 or 2 penalties against him, I believe, and never really got his chance to get fully into the game. He seemed to be trying to jackal a lot more than he normally would, Satiti, which is why I thought maybe he was 7 or a 6 in that regard. But he's one of those players that, how do you get him in the starting lineup when Savia is there? Unless you move Savia back to 7. That's been mentioned many times.
This is the whole argument.
I don't know how you can keep him in there without some sort of switch up. So maybe, no, I was going to say maybe you put him in the starting side, but you just can't because Savi is there as number 8. He's the captain as well. How are you going to sack your captain?
Made the decision that Sevilla is an 8. So that's what it comes down to. That is the key thing that comes down to this decision. It's, do you consider him a 7 or 8? And he considers him an 8. And this is the thing. I'll be very surprised now that if he changes that. Like, if he does, then whoa, that's a big statement to kind of go back on, because we'll be surprised here. Ooh, what is it?
Sam Kane's in the squad. I've just had that realization. That's the first time I've remembered that he's actually in the team. Could he be the 7 for this game? Who do I put Black at?
And this is where I'm going to go in right here. I've gone with Tupavai, of course, is my lock. I've then gone with Sam Kane, and this is why I was actually considering him to start in this game against Argentina. But it's actually crazy because I'm looking back at the Ian Foster era where Sam Kane was always starting and I wanted Papali'i to get in. But now I was actually thinking of the reverse here of like Papali'i starting and actually considering Sam Kane to start. So I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. It's like we're in a different kind of universe here. But look, Sam Kane deserves to get in. I think this is a game which I think is just so suited to him actually the more you think about it. So, and again, he can cover that 7 spot. He's great from a tackling standpoint. There's nothing more I can really say. So, yeah, Sam Kane is in for me.
Yeah, I probably should have had him in there somewhere, to be honest. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe they have got him more as just that experience in the squad, helping the younger players as they progress. I'm just making up stuff now. He's probably going to be playing up against Los Pumas. But
to be fair, what could happen is you could have Ethan Blackadder off the bench because he covers at least 6 and 7, and then you have Sam Cane to start. That could be like a better kind of move, maybe.
I kind of want to do it, but at the same time, I would regret doing it if they don't do it. If they end up going with that original combo. So we'll keep that in the back of the mind while we also have this one. But there is a good chance that we see Kane take to the field in this matchup. And now the back replacements, 3 left. So for yourself, who have you gone with as your back replacements?
Yeah, so for my back 3, this is actually where I've gone with Noah Holtman as my scrum half. It's a big call, but it's crazy because TJ started the last game, but I've just dropped him from the second game. I just think they gotta add a bit more speed, I'd say, in terms of this game against Argentina, and I think Noah Holtman does that. And from a tackling standpoint, he's actually up there as the best actually when you look at the stats. So he gives you kind of that defensive, ability from off the bench. So that's kind of good from his standpoint. 22. This is where I go with Beauden Barrett. I just think, again, he can offer that kind of versatility from a 10 and 15 standpoint, and he just has to be involved. He's just been good for the All Blacks throughout the past few games, so he has to be involved no matter what. And then for this 23, this is where I go with Anton Brown. I just think it's one of those where I was considering Billy Proctor, but I was like, I can't fault Anton Brown even more than I have already, than not putting in the starting lineup. So he definitely has to come off the bench for me.
It'd be a bit brutal, wouldn't it? Have him from the starting lineup.
That would be very brutal. That's the one that would be very brutal. So, but no, Anton Brown, sure thing for me off the bench.
Righty. So for me, I have gone with. I'm not that confident. I'll just say off the get-go, but I have gone with 22 Rieko Ioane, and then number 23, I've gone with Sevu Reece. So I haven't got an extra fly half, but then at the end of the day, when you've got Beauden Barrett starting at 15 for my Scott Robinson side, it would be an easy transition to put him to 10. Then you bring Will Jordan to 15, and then Sevu Reece goes to right wing when he makes his way onto the field.
Split?
No. Oh, sorry. I missed Noah Hotham. I thought that was a given, seeing
because you asked
TJ played. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have got Noah Hotham in there as my number 21. Just same reason as you, really. He's a good enough player. The attacking intent just isn't there for TJ Perenara at the moment. So maybe having that pressure of a couple of young guys possibly taking that spot might be exactly what TJ Perenara needs. But yeah, 22 Rieko Ioane, 23 Sevu Reece. I want to see a much better performance from both of them. Rieko Ioane didn't really have too many touches at all since he made his way off the bench, but that was also because the back line for the All Blacks once again just wasn't really working. I was considering Geordie Barrett there, but then up against the Fijians he came off the bench and looked like dog shit, so I've decided instead to go with Rieko Ioane.
Maybe even Ruben Love, you never know.
Maybe Ruben Love as the option too, but nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. So does Tim, I'm sure. And of course, if you want to see more of Tim, be sure to check out his YouTube channel. The link is in the comments and also the description. Do let us know who you think Scott Robertson will be going with in his All Blacks XV, as well as the bench for this upcoming game up against Argentina. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all for the next one.